And good morning. We are ready for section 15.4. This is the last lesson in this section. This is a very, very short chapter. And I'm not going to give you the quiz today. If you feel like you can take that quiz and pass it and you know this from sun up to sundown, you just be my guest and go ahead and take that quiz. I think it's quiz number, it'd be quiz number 13. So if you feel all hooty-tooty and you think you can do it, go right ahead. I'd be happy for you to get that done. Otherwise, we're going to look at the area of parallelograms. If you'll look on page 309 right quick, this is a short lesson. Now, we're going to expand on what we learned about the area of rectangles to parallelograms. Now, a rectangle is the name we use to describe a specific type of parallelogram. What if instead of a rectangle, we have the parallelogram below? How do we find its area? So you see this at the bottom of 309. Notice that the parallelogram could easily be arranged into a rectangle by drawing a perpendicular line and moving the triangle formed to the other side as shown. Notice that. You could turn that parallelogram very easily by adding just a simple little triangle. You could turn it into a rectangle. So look at the top of page 310. Now, provided we know the length and the height, we could find its area since we know how to find the area of a rectangle. So this one at the top of 310 is 88 millimeters long and 37 millimeters wide or high. So right underneath that, its area equals 88 times 37, which equals 3,256 square millimeters. Rather than redrawing a parallelogram as a rectangle, we could have found the area by simply multiplying the measurements that would form our length and our width if we rearranged the parallelogram. So again, 88 times 37 equals 3,256. Notice that we used 37 millimeters, not 38. You notice that? As our width. 38 millimeters is the dimension of the slanted side, not what would be our width if the parallelogram were rearranged into a rectangle. To help us remember which sides, sorry about that, I had a phone call. So we're going to start back. Notice that we use 37 millimeters, not 38 as our width. 38 millimeters is the dimension of the slanted side, not what would be our width if the parallelogram were rearranged into a rectangle. Now, to help us remember which sides of a parallelogram to multiply, we're going to use a couple of different terms. Now, we'll call the length the base, and the measurement of the perpendicular distance from the bottom to the top, which is the distance that would be our width if we rearrange the parallelogram to form a rectangle, the height. So I'm at the bottom of 310. So notice this parallelogram and what they've done to bring that up and make it into a rectangle. I'm sorry, yes, a rectangle. So here's the formula for a parallelogram. Area equals base times height, or A equals B times H. Now that's for a parallelogram. Okay, and you're going to multiply. And you might think, well, that's the same thing as the rectangle. Well, yes, it is, and no, it's not. So we have to learn this in order to learn something else later on down the road. So with a parallelogram, remember a parallelogram is where it's got two opposite sides that are perpendicular. They'll never meet, they just run side by side. Okay, remember that. All right, so if you'll remember that formula right there, just base times height, you'll have to make sure that you get the right number on there, okay? Now, at the top of 311, it says, now I know that a parallelogram isn't a shape that you run across every day. However, we'll learn in a few chapters how to build on our knowledge of parallelograms to help us find the area of triangles. That's why it's going to be important to learn base times height on that. Now, if you want to look at your page for today, it is 15.4. It It's finding the area of the parallelograms. As always, be sure to include the proper unit in your answers. So on number 1A, remember, it's base times height. Make sure you write your formula first on these, okay? So your base, remember what your base is? Your base is going to be that 10 meters at the top. And then your height is going to be, which one of those is going to be your height? I'm fixing to tell you. I just want to make sure, is it going to be 8 or is it going to be 13? It's going to be your 8. Because remember, your height is the one that makes it straight, I guess is the best way to put it. So on B, base times height, what's your base and height going to be there? I'm going to say it, so say it first. It should be 13 times 5. Okay. All right, and then let's see, painting a room should be pretty easy there. Okay, on number 3A, suppose you've obtained permission to paint your room. Your ceilings are 8 feet tall. You have 2 walls that are 6 feet long and 2 that are 8 feet long. One of the 8 feet walls has a doorway that's 3 feet wide and 6 feet tall. The other has a closet that's 4.5 feet wide and 6 feet tall. How many square feet do you need to paint? Assuming you don't paint the door or the closet. Hint, when you face a problem like this, it's helpful to draw it out, as they've done there. Notice that we drew each wall as a rectangle with a height of 8 feet, which is the ceiling height, and the length specified, 8 by 6. Then we drew our door and our closet. Remember, you can use shapes to represent different objects, including walls. Now, to find the area you're going to paint, first find the area of each wall and add those together. Then find the area taken up by the door and the closet and subtract those areas from the overall area to find the area you're actually going to paint. So in other words, let me show you here. Sorry, but mine's not very good. Okay, so this one has the closet. This one has the door. Okay, so it gives you the area on that page. It gives you the area of this whole shebang and this whole shebang. I just like that word. I don't know why. And then it gives you the area of this little section and then this little section. So what it's telling you to do in the hint is find the area of this whole thing. And then find the area of this whole thing and subtract this area from this area. And you'll do it on both of those to find your answer. Does that make sense? Okay. And then the rest of it should be pretty easy. You can use your calculator then on the back on page 4. I'm not going to grade this page, but I will say this. If you feel comfortable and you want to go ahead and do your quiz, you go right ahead. Otherwise, you can wait until next week. So let me know if you need any help on this.